Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Business Builders Podcast. I'm here today with another expert, Diane Bogino. And Diane will introduce herself in just a moment. But what we're going to talk about today is something that many people are familiar with, but they really don't understand the depth of this instrument. It's called the behaviors, or commonly called DiSC. But let's go back to Diane. Diane, please introduce yourself.
Well, Diane Bogino, I'm president of Performance Strategies, and I do career coaching and performance coaching and do a little consulting and team building.
Great. All right. Well, I'm excited about our conversation today because we're going to talk about something that is highly used out there in the workplace, and that is the DiSC assessment. So I think first off, we might want to say a couple things about the assessment that we use, and that is it's part of Target Training International, one of the largest assessment companies in the world, actually one of the top 20. And a number of things it has going for it. As a matter of fact, I want to read these off just so I make sure I give them to our listeners just the way it really is. And that is, let's go back here. First off, the assessment we use is approved by the EEOC, that's the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. So it's compliant to that organization. It's approved by the American Psychological Association. All of the instruments we use are scientifically validated. And of course, as I mentioned a moment ago, TTI-SI is rated one of the top 20 assessment companies in the world. So that's important. When you're starting to shop around for a DiSC program, make sure you get something that's all of those things we just mentioned. So with that said, we're going to share our screen and we're going to show you the assessment that we're using. And let's see here. Let's get that back again. Well, Dan, before I'll go find that, but tell us a little bit more about your experiences using the behaviors with your clients.
Yes, as I said, I do career coaching. I help people build better careers so they can create better lives. And people do not know how to sell themselves when they're looking for a position.
Mm-hmm.
I interview people all the time, and they come in and they're like a totally different person than what's on that piece of paper in front of them. So people do not understand how to sell themselves. But if they incorporate the instruments that you and I use in the coaching process, they can actually take information from those assessments, put them in the resume, talk about them in the interview, understand how to answer interview questions better. So
Wow.
it can be a powerful instrument in in looking for a job and building your career going forward after you're hired.
Yes. You know, the other side of the coin on that is once that person is in the organization and they are somebody that's understanding that assessment, a number of things that does. I remember in one organization I was with, one of the individuals mentioned to me that after he had gone through the behaviors assessment, and he had another person that was also in the organization that went through it, it was for the first time that he actually understood that other person. Where in the past, he thought this person would be very private, very not one that wanted to have much conversation and actually didn't trust the guy. But once they went through that assessment together, they discovered each other's styles. And this other gentleman happened to be a high C, which was compliant, a very analytical type of a person, very detail oriented, which you need in every organization. Once that became clear, he was able to understand this person and know that it wasn't personal. It was just the way the guy was. He just wasn't a real extroverted person. He was introverted. So once they got that cleared up, their relationship just blossomed from that point forward.
Yeah. That has a lot to do with performance at work as well, because when people are able to communicate and understand each other's communication style and behavioral styles, things go a lot smoother in the workplace. So, using that instrument as a performance tool or as a communication tool to help two people communicate better can be a powerful solution to a lot of problems in a person's business.
Absolutely. I'll share another story later with one of my clients. They learned from their experience. But I'm going to go ahead and share the screen and we're going to walk right into this assessment so people can get a look at it, the one that we're using, and we can tell them
Mm.
some things about it. So
Yeah.
starting it off here, so as a little introduction on the behavior. So this is part of a trimetrics EQ, which is a actually three sciences put together. What we're going to just show you one of those today. That'll be the behaviors. We'll cover the other two in the sessions to come. That would be one on driving forces, and then a third one there on the emotional quotient itself. But going back to the behavior. So in this report, and Diane, just we're having a conversation here, so join in any time here.
Hmm.
In this report, what we're really measuring are four dimensions of a normal behavior. Now, I like to think of behaviors. We can compare it to an iceberg. So when you look at an iceberg floating in the ocean, 9/10 of it is underwater, so you can't
Hmm.
see a good portion of it. The
Right.
portion
So
that's
this,
above, go ahead.
right, this is about the observable behaviors.
That's right. What's
Yeah.
above the surface there. So
Hmm.
that's why it's so readily accepted because people say, "Oh, I understand. I can see how that is. Yeah, I see that about that person." So in this report, it's going to talk about how you respond to problems and challenges, how you influence others to your point of view, how you respond to the pace of the environment, and of course, how you respond to rules and procedures set by others. It's always fun when people read this last paragraph. Here, you want to comment on that? Go ahead.
No, I'm just agreeing with you that people get a lot of insight, and these four bullet points right here
Hmm.
give a plethora of understanding about this instrument because this really tells you exactly what you're going to be diving into. People don't understand that others respond to problem solving in different ways. Some people attack problems, some people sit back and analyze them.
Hmm.
But when you're looking at that individual, you're saying to yourself, can't you make a decision? But it
Yes.
isn't that at all. You're trying to understand the problem more readily. So once you understand that about your colleague and your coworker, then you've got something to work with.
Absolutely. I laugh when I think about my wife when she comes up with a problem that she wants me to help her with. Okay, because many times she doesn't want any help, right? We just want I'm supposed to listen. But there are times she asks me directly what I want, what she wants to know what I think she should do to solve the problem. I'll sit there and I'll think for a second. She says, "Didn't you hear me?" I said, I did hear you. I'm just thinking about what I want to do about it." Okay. So that's important. We recognize how people are going to respond or communicate back.
And this
Uh,
can be used in more intimate relationships. Now, neither you nor I work in that arena, but
right.
it can absolutely be used in if people are having difficulty getting along or trying to communicate.
Absolutely. But in fact, what we do from time to time, sometimes a client will say, would this be something we could do on my wife or my spouse? And I say, absolutely, we could do this. And we do a report on the spouse. And what's really neat is with this tool, we can do a comparison report. So we can compare the two of them side by side. And that really does a lot to open up people's eyes when they see some of the specific uh, parts of the assessment brought to light in comparison with the other person and that person that we're talking to. So
And in team building time, which is so important for the work that you do, particularly. And consultants use this to do that comparison report. And I'll give you an example.
yes.
In my work, I not only do career coaching, but I help other people build their own coaching business. And a recent coaching client of mine had a client who had a team, and the CEO had a very, very strong, sense of urgency. No one on his team had hardly any sense of
Oh boy.
urgency. So the disc revealed this to each individual, but then it showed up in the comparison report. So can you imagine what this CEO's been? He's been beating his head against a wall, but not
Mm-hmm.
understanding what was going on.
Sure.
This revealed it. So now people, and that's another thing, Tom. People don't realize how important having a sense of urgency is, particularly at work.
Mm-hmm.
So you could coach the individuals then and help them build that sense of urgency and think how much better that team could work together.
Wow. I just begin to imagine how the frustration of that CEO. I mean, like people aren't home, they're showing up, but they're not answering the door type of thing. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. See, that's what it comes back to, right? When you build your team, you better make sure you have the right people on your team or the right people in the right seats, as it's been
Hmm.
said. And that's another thing. We'll get to that later in the discussion here today, where you can actually see the on the wheel the type of
Mm.
person that you have when it comes to behaviors. And then, of course, as you mentioned, when you start doing a team report, you see everybody in your organization on that plotted on that wheel, and now you can see where you have some gaps
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
terms of
What do you need to build your business or grow in the way you want to grow?
absolutely.
I had a client one time who wanted to grow their business, but they had no drivers. They had nobody
Mm,
that, to push the business forward. I'm like,
hmm.
you could run a bus through here.
Yes.
So they did do some changes and add what they needed, and they did go on to build their business the way they wanted to.
See, great point. Great point. See, too often people just kind of run that business by the seat of their pants. They don't really know. Oh, they just think they have the right team, but for some reason they're not cooperating or whatever. So the key is, yeah, use these instruments to help you build your business, get the right people in the right seats, and you'll do much, much better. Okay, let's go back to that illustration here. So that's important there. One last thing we should mention here, people I say always ask is how accurate is this? Well, it's pretty darn accurate. Anywhere between 92 to 98%. It depends on how accurately the people answer the questions, which means they have to be honest.
Hmm.
One nice thing about this report is if they do try to just give answers they think the assessment wants to hear, it will actually red flag that person's assessment and they'll be asked to take it over. So that's what we love about this assessment as well. Well, let's go to the next page here. So behavioral characteristics. So why don't you say something about this page here?
The first paragraph is about your assets, your likes, and your dislikes.
Hmm.
So right away, you understand what you do and do not like to do, the tasks that maybe you have to do on a daily basis, and then you can better divvy up your time in terms of time management and task completion to maybe get those things out of the way first.
Mm. And then that second paragraph, what's that describe?
Uh, let's see, John will work to assets like, you know what, Tom? I cannot remember.
Oh, okay. Well, what I like about this page, and it actually goes to the next page, these are summary statements put together from the assessment, described just as Diane mentioned, it focuses on certain areas and certain parts of the uh, report, but it gives an overall look. I like to tell them it's like going up about 1,000 feet, looking down. Here's what we're seeing, generally speaking. Now, what's
Right.
going to
That
happen?
second paragraph is about problem solving. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
what's problem solving? Sure, okay. And that's just it. It kind of gives you that general look from 1,000 feet up. But of course, we're going to dive into that specifically page by page when we start to look at it more closely. And then that third paragraph, what's that one more
That's
about?
your communication skills.
Okay,
Yeah.
communication skills is important to
Yeah.
know. So again, generally speaking, it's going to summarize those three sections that come from the report. But now we'll go past this section. We're going to go into and these two assessment graphs. We'll
Wow.
talk about those later, but they're a key element to understand about this report.
Uh,
So this next page here, value to the organization. What would you say about that one there, Diane?
wow. This gives the individual so much information in terms of not only how to sell themselves when they're looking for a job, but also in their performance issues and if they're looking for a promotion.
Mm,
Here's what I can bring to the table for this
hmm.
position that I want to get to because I can bring so much to the table because of the value I can bring in these areas.
Hmm.
Great page. I love this page.
Oh, absolutely. What I love about this particular part of the report is when we do a debriefing with both the decision maker and or the supervisor and the individual employee. We'll get to this page and I'll ask that the employee just share with his supervisor what were the top three things he felt he brought to the table in terms of value to the organization, which he does, and he shares that. And then I asked this supervisor to say, well, now what do you see that he brings to the table that maybe he didn't mention, or can you comment on some of the things he mentioned? And this is a great
Hmm.
opener for helping them open up communication and giving that employee an opportunity to bask in the sunshine of some praise and recognition. Here's
Love
why
it.
you're so valuable to our organization. Because oftentimes people they don't hear that. They don't hear the compliments. They don't hear the strengths that they have. They just are told when they do something wrong, right? That's what
Right.
happens a lot.
It's a
So,
great point, Tom. Love that.
and I love using it with my clients. It just helps them understand each other
Yeah.
better. And we've used this as a basis to diffuse some of the concerns maybe an employer had towards his. And in one case with one of my clients was a project manager. Project manager was getting ready to walk. He was starting to look at ads on online at night because he was just not getting through to the owner of the company. And once we got him to sit down, went through this report. We started to open up that discussion, gave that decision maker a chance to share his praise and appreciation for this individual. And to this day, that project manager is still there. So very valuable.
Yeah.
So,
And those are not put in any order of importance. So people don't get confused by what
mm,
they might see on that report. I always like to mention that on that page.
great point. Great point. Okay. And now, next page, one of my favorites as
Mm,
well. Checklist for
mm.
communicating. What would you say about that one?
Well, this is ways that people do like to be communicated with
Mm-hmm.
from their point of view.
Mm,
And I always like for them to pick out like their top 5 or 6 most important ones for them. I don't know how you do that page, Tom.
mm-hmm. But same way, I ask them to highlight the ones they feel are most important, help them
Mm-hmm.
focus in the top ones for sake of time. But the fact is, this is so important. Oftentimes, people need to let other people know, hey, this is how I want to be communicated to. So this
Mm-hmm.
way, we have a good connection going here. So if that other person, if in this case it might be a supervisor, knows that, well, then they're going to understand that person just that much more and be able to communicate with them in a way that that person is going to respond. That's important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now to
Absolutely.
take that one step further, we want to know, hey, how does this person not want to be communicated to? Maybe more importantly, right? What
That's
would you
right.
say about this page?
Yeah, I have them highlight their top pet peeves here because
Mm-hmm.
this is also something they need to know about what sets them off.
Mm,
For example, if someone's talking to them in a manner they don't want to be spoken to, and it might trigger something and they automatically lose it, they need to understand so they can take a breath and say, I know this person doesn't really understand what they're doing to me,
mm-hmm.
because really it's not that person's fault they don't understand. Now, if you
Mm-hmm.
were doing this with a team, yes, you would have that understanding, which would be even better. But
Mm-hmm.
it helps that person to just reduce that stress level a little bit so they don't just fly off the handle.
Absolutely. You think about the different types of behavioral styles that person might be dealing with, right? Say in a boss, which many times could be more of a high D. So if this person happens to be that type of person, maybe they're the boss could be a person who does a lot of directing or ordering, right? Or
Mm.
maybe they sometimes get a little impatient and they get a little bit of dictatorial. Okay, well, these are things you don't want to do with this person, Mr.
Hmm.
Decision Maker, Mrs. Decision Maker. These are red flags. These are things you don't want to do. And as a result, if you stop doing them, you'll have a better communication with that employee and definitely a higher rapport and trust that will take place. And what is it we've heard so many times? What's the number one reason why people leave a company?
Yeah, because of one individual. I mean, you made a
Yeah,
great point, Tom. If a boss is being dictatorial, somebody's going to shut down or leave because
that's
they
right.
can't deal with it. They don't want to deal with it.
That's right. You know, we work in the field. We see this all the time. I have a former client worked with for a number of years, and he was a high D, very dictatorial, and that was his style. But I tried to explain to him that's not what his people wanted. They told me over and over again what they hated the most is when he would sit there and just rip them up and down for
Oh,
something they did wrong. And there are times when the man was mistaken in what he was addressing these people on. And
mhm.
but never once did he apologize. That's another big problem for
Oh God,
people in
yeah.
power not apologizing for their mistakes. But in any event, sure enough, it took a few years, but I think it was one, two, three, four of their top people left. All went to the same other company. Yeah. It didn't make the decision maker real happy, but he was part of the problem that was not ever resolved, unfortunately. So
Mm,
you can learn these things, but you have to do them. That's the important thing.
yeah.
So now go to the next page here, communication
Mm,
tips. This is a fascinating page. What would you like to say
mm.
about this one?
Yeah, this is for people to help them not only understand themselves, but now understand other people as well. So now we have that two-way understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I debrief at time, I'm sure you do as well. I have them
Mm-hmm.
try to think of somebody they know that
Mm-hmm.
has these behavioral styles. And, it can be at work or somebody you know, but just to help them begin understanding so that they understand how to see and the behaviors or observe the behaviors
Mm-hmm.
themselves.
Yes. Yes. You look at these, you've got the four types of behavior here. You got the start to the right, D for dominance, and then I below for influence, S for steadiness, C for compliance. What's important is you see in each of these boxes the ways you want to communicate with that person, at least in the beginning of the conversation, which is a good starter,
Mhm.
and then ways not to, the bottom three. So, like with the dominant type person, be clear, specific, brief, to the point. That's a positive. Stick to
Mhm.
business. They don't want to know about the ball game yesterday. They want to get right down to the nitty gritty, and then be
Correct.
prepared with support material and a well organized package. So what I tell my clients is when you have this information, you can on the surface at least assess another person. Are they a high D, a C, an S, or an I? And then just use these as guidelines to discuss whatever it is you're discussing with them. At least it's a good
That's
way to get it started.
That's right. And it helps people in terms of job finding understand the interviewer's style and adapt. But the same thing can be said for promotions because to, an organization to be fair, even if people within the organization are applying for a promotion, they need to interview that person. They need to see
Hmm.
their resume. So once you understand another person, you can be a better interviewer in terms of answer or interviewee in terms of answering the questions.
Yes, yes. I always tell my clients, take a snapshot of this picture with your camera on your phone, and then just use it, review it before you go into a meeting with somebody or a client. Uh,
Great idea.
and it's
Love
just a
that.
good way to, keep you on your game there. Now, I gotta share that one story I was mentioning to you earlier. So, company I was working with, CEO, he a great guy, a high D, very high D. Well, he shared with me what happened with one of his tech guys who was head of his department, the tech department there, and they'd come together once a month to have a meeting. Well, as it turns out, the Rick, who was the high D, the CEO, he just wanted the facts. He just wanted to get it over with, give him what you know, and that's it. Well, the tech guy, his top guy there, didn't want to do just that. He had this whole dog and pony show that he had all these graphs and he had these PowerPoint slides and he wanted to show him everything that's been going on for the last month, and it just drove Rick crazy. And they were at odds. They didn't understand their styles, obviously. And what happened was it was as a point of real friction every time they got together for this type of a meeting. So
Mm,
finally, they both went through the behaviors. They understood what they were each like, and then they came to an understanding. And now what they did is they worked it out. Where okay, they don't come together every month; it's every 3 months. And when they come together, the one time they'll come together. His tech guy will give him the ball, the whole presentation, all the bells and whistles, and Rick sits there, takes notes, understands, asks questions. Very nice. And then the next time they meet, it's just a quick 20-minute meeting, they're done. But they had this understanding where they finally figured out how they both wanted to be communicated to, and they worked it out. So now the tech guy's happy. He's been there for a number of years, and as a result, they're they're working more successfully and productively.
right. Kudos to them for doing that. That's
Yeah,
the way it should be done.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Great
it didn't
story.
didn't happen until they understood each other's behavioral style.
And I'm going to steal that snapshot
Oh yeah, yeah,
idea.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's what we're here. Yeah. So this
Oh,
next page is interesting. Why don't you just
mm.
tell us a little bit about that one?
Wow, this is so revealing, Tom. People just, when they get the gist of this and what it is telling them, what people see in them from their behaviors, it is just eye-opening. And the question we always ask at the end is, how do you think others respond to you when you're engaged in demanding and arbitrary behavior? And they go,
Hmm.
hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, usually they tell me, they say in the first part there, so how do you usually see yourself? And they usually check all the boxes, just about most. But when it
Yeah.
comes to the other ones, they start to frown, they start to get this concerned look on their face, and I'll explain to them now, under moderate or pressure or tension or stress or fatigue, others might. Now there's a word in there, may or
Yeah,
might,
right,
may see
right.
like, and quite frankly, that's how they do see you, right?
Hmm.
Point is, oh, okay. So we tell them, when you're under some stress or fatigue, just take a deep breath, take a couple moments to chill out before you go ahead and respond to whatever it is you have to respond to. Now, take that one step further. Under extreme pressure, you can imagine, they could be very
Hmm.
abrasive, controlling, arbitrary, opinionated. Same thing. Take a step back, slow down, and just recognize if you just let your emotions go, you're not going to be perceived the way you should be. It's going to make your job harder.
Yes, absolutely.
So these are
This
good
is,
things to know about. Go ahead,
yeah. No,
Diane.
I was just going to say it's a great page. It's very revealing. And um, people from this page, people can also learn some stress techniques or
Mm,
stress reducing techniques, I should say, so that
mhm.
this doesn't happen.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing that's about this report. I don't like to just run through it in one day and forget about it, but rather usually do a debriefing on each science over an hour, and then we'll go on to something else. But to come back to this page and to give them something to work on over the next week or two. It's a great page you could pull things from to help develop their skill sets, to help them develop their awareness of what they can do to get better. So it's a good coaching tool. I like to look
Hmm.
at it as that. So absolutely, this every good report like this one should be used extensively, not just looked at and forgotten, put back in a file cabinet. It should be referred back to again and again and worked on with that individual.
Absolutely.
Now, this is an interesting page.
Mm.
Absence of a behavioral factor. Why don't you give us your thoughts on this one?
I like to use this page for a lot of in a lot of ways, but one way in the job hunting arena is that people really should research a company before they apply at it to see if they really want to work there. And
Mm.
I suggest they have like a list of 25 companies. And it's
Hmm.
a living tool because if they research a company and say, I don't want to work there, then they replace it. But an example would be if it's a fast-paced environment and you don't like that, then you don't want to go to work for that company.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's one way I use it.
Great point. Great point. Again, this is something that when you understand yourself in the situations you should be aware of, if you can, in this case, that first paragraph is going to talk about, the situations you should avoid if possible. So I'll
Hmm.
always tell them if that's something you don't want to do, you don't feel you should be doing, and it's something you dislike, then delegate that to someone else. Now, there are times you're going to have to do things, right? And that's just part of
Hmm.
your job. But then that's where you have to learn how to do it better, and then utilize the people that are there with you to support you in that, so that you can do a better job handling those situations. Now, down to the bottom part, so the second paragraph, understanding that need to adapt is unavoidable at times. Some tips that you should use to adapt. And again, great coaching tool, tells them things they can do to just adapt to that situation and make it more successful for them. So
Hmm.
again, another great coaching tool that can
Yeah.
be used. Now we get to the
Mm.
graph. This is the main one. Why don't we talk about this, Diane, and we'll go on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I don't,
this is
go ahead.
the like we talked about the problem solving, how people attack problem solving.
Hmm.
Um, like for example, they might see the word on here that they don't particularly like, but once it's explained to them, then they understand how they approach problem solving. So this is a great eye opener as well.
Absolutely. So this just for the people who are watching this maybe for the first time. So we have the driving force, or we have the driver, the D at the top, but below, this is the same description of the person, but the different type of a dominant type person, the person that's calculating, cooperative, hesitant, cautious. That would be, in other words, this would be the reverse of what you see up here.
Hmm.
And not there's not good or bad here. It's not, oh, this is above the line, so that must be better. It's just these are just descriptors of that type of behavioral style. So is the person above the line dominant or below the line dominant? That's something
Hmm.
that can
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
keep in mind. Same with the influencer. Now we also can put this graph on a horizontal uh, scale, and then it's easier to see how it goes back and forth. I think we may do this in this report towards the end. But the idea here is this is giving you the descriptors of the individual. Let's say the person's, in this case, a high D, high I. These are the descriptors that would describe that person. They are below the line on steadiness and compliance. These are descriptors that would describe their behavior. And again, something that's an eye opener. This is a natural descriptor graph. So what we're saying here is that it describes a person when they're outside of work, doing things they're normally comfortable with. And what I like to do at this point, then, I'll just slide ahead to the other graph just to show them the two of them. We see them on the side of the page, but we want to see them up close. So we'll walk
Hmm.
over to this other page now. Why don't you go ahead and discuss this page a bit and just what's the difference between the graphs?
Well, as you pointed out, the natural style is on the right there. Their adapted style is their style at work.
Mm,
So this is how they adapt their behavior at work. And the numbers under those graphs, we see in the circles there, it can tell us, the coach, how
mm,
much they're adapting because it could or could not be causing them stress. And the individual has to decide that for themselves.
mm-hmm,
This is a typical sales type behavior graph, by the way. I don't know if this
mm-hmm,
person is in sales or not, but you've
mm.
got the assertive, friendly individual, and this is the type of behavior you need for a sales position.
Hmm. Yeah, you're referring to the assertiveness being the high D and the friendly high I. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And what we like to see on this graph is that not too wide of a point spread between the graphs when they're compared side by side. So, for instance, the natural style person doing things in an environment where they're comfortable outside of work. Here, this person has a score of 94. Now, over to the left at work, adapted style, it's at 88. So usually the spread shouldn't be any more than 10 to 12 points. If it
Hmm.
is, as long as they know that that's happening, that there is more stress here because of the difference in scores there, then they just need to be aware that's going to cause more stress in their lives.
Hmm.
Certainly, if you see a really wide spread, like 20 or 30 points between one graph and the other graph, that's something to take a look at.
Yeah, you want to have a conversation around that. Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely. So, but we wanted to jump to this page just because it shows you the two
Hmm.
styles, the same, I mean, the same person, but their natural styles outside of work and their adaptive style is at work, and it gives you a good indication
Hmm.
of how they're situated. I always tell people, and this isn't in this person here, their graphs matches up pretty close. There was not really any
Yeah,
variation beyond 10
right.
points at all. It means they're in the right job.
Right, exactly. I was just going to say this person needs to know they don't need to be in a dark room in the back working on a computer all day because they'll go crazy.
That's right. That's right. And that's the other thing of this. When that shows up like this, and they know they're in a position that works for them, and if it doesn't, if this graphs are skewed, then you got to take a look at really if you're in the right place, doing the
Hmm.
right things.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's kind of go back here to where we were a moment ago, and we'll work through the rest of this. But so that's the graph we talked about a moment ago. That's the natural style. And again, it's just the descriptors that are right there for us. Now, the rest of this, this is going to explain the differences between natural and adapted, the two graphs we just looked at. So this just gets into the details. We'd like to have the person read through that, see what they can
Hmm.
understand from it, and then we explain it further. But that's pretty much what happens on the next
Hmm.
two pages.
Yeah.
From there, over to the adaptive style, now we add on this checklist. We ask them to go ahead, Diane. I'll let you take over.
Well, this one is where I like to ask them, are they getting these things where they are right now?
Mm-hmm.
Um, or are these happening where they are? So they have a better picture of what they're doing and how they're adapting.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And again, we have them check the boxes or check the check marks that they can identify with.
Hmm.
And they don't necessarily die with all of them, but the
No.
ones they do have, good. Then let's focus in on those and make sure we're aware of that and how we can use that. The
Ah,
next few pages, time wasters.
yeah,
What would you like to
love
say about
this.
that? Go ahead.
Well, I really love this because it really helps people manage their time better, and they don't realize.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you always hear poor delegation. Well, I don't have anybody to delegate to.
Hmm.
Believe me, you can always find a way to delegate something. And it may not always be, hey, Jane, can you do this? Or Bob, I need you to take this over. It could be something technical that you could use. It
Mm-hmm.
could be something you could stop doing. So
Mm-hmm.
take a look at delegating in from different perspectives.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I love about these pages. It points out basic areas that the person can should become aware of, and it lists the specific problem, in this case, poor delegation, possible causes, and we get buy-in. We say, which of these do you
Hmm.
think makes sense to you? Okay. Well, here's some possible solutions.
Love that.
So what they can do then is make a plan
Hmm.
to focus in on the areas they're finding that they're wasting their time or they're not using their time as well as they should, and take action to help to fix that problem. And
Hmm.
again, on the next few pages, it just talks about some general areas as prescribed towards that type of a behavioral style. In this case, a high
Hmm.
D, high
Yeah.
I. But you have poor delegation, firefighting, lack of a written plan, crisis management, yeah, snap decisions, say.
Hmm.
So again, take one area there that we can focus in on, and always come back to the other areas. But that's a
Hmm.
great coaching tool. I like using it
Hmm.
in that respect. And
Yeah.
then this area here, areas for improvement, as we come to the last part of this assessment. What would you say
Yeah.
about that one?
Well, I like to point out the word tendency on this page. You have a
Mm-hmm.
tendency to. And the other thing is, Tom, we've been through several pages where there looks like there's a lot of room for improvement. And I tell
Mm-hmm.
people, work on the top three things that would give the biggest payoff for you right now.
Mm-hmm.
And once you have those conquered, then you can work on other things because people, quite frankly, could get overwhelmed here. And
Yes.
they look at this, they think, I'm a terrible person, but that's not the case at all. You
Mm-hmm.
know, uh, you want to get better every day, and it's a journey. It's not the end of that's not your end goal for today. It's a journey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, that's not a one done thing here. That's what
Hmm.
I like about this document. It's living, it's breathing. You take
Hmm.
things from it when we focus in on those areas that the person can work on a little bit at a time. And
Hmm.
that way they can be on this continuous road for self-improvement. But again, if you don't know what to work on, then you can't get started. Any road's going to take you no
I
place.
love that. Good
Yeah,
point.
yeah. But this way we can help them get more specific. So then this next couple of pages is just, well, go ahead and tell me a little bit about these pages here. What do you see it as?
Well, here we also want to point out that they're measured, and first of all, don't call this a test, it's an assessment. There's no right or
Mm-hmm,
wrong answers or
mm-hmm,
scores where you're passing or failing, but
mm-hmm,
you are measured against the general population. So this page points that out as well. So you've got your real scores and how you measure up against the population. And that's important, not to say you're better or worse, but to say, am I out of the norm? And
mm-hmm,
do I need to really work on this? Because if it's something you do need, then yes, work on it. If it's something you don't need in your job, then let's not jump to that right away. Okay. But
mm-hmm,
this gives you some good insight where your strengths and weaknesses are for the job and task that you need to be doing and how you can do them better.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and the way to read this page, the blue line here at the top, out of for each year, I say urgency. This
Hmm.
person's their score is 100, which is amazing.
Mm.
That's to the far right of this graph here. Now, in the middle of the red, that's the norm, and then that
Hmm.
line right in the middle, 43 is the mean.
Hmm.
So the idea is this person, compared to all the other people who have taken this assessment, that's where
Hmm.
they're scoring. Very good.
Yeah.
100, 90. Now, as the score goes, we go down the page to the next page, those graphs are going to come back to the left because the
Yeah.
person's got to balance these things out.
Hmm.
So you can see here, and you get into these other areas: competitive, people oriented,
Hmm.
customer oriented, persistence. Yeah, a
Hmm.
person's a high D, high I. They're going to have a lot less of that many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the last page, of course, this is on things that would be just the opposite of what they're really good at. Organized workplace, following policy, analysis,
Hmm.
being consistent. So again, gives them an idea of what they need to work on. And there's some things they're better off not working on, but
Hmm.
delegating that to
Yes.
somebody else, right? Uh,
Yeah.
and that's all part of it. Then last area here, last couple pages, again, those two graphs side by side that show you the natural style and the adaptive style. And
Hmm.
then here's the graph it says a behavioral continuum. So it's not up
Hmm.
and down, what's
Hmm.
above the line, what's below the line. So I like this graph because it shows
Hmm.
just a variation of how people are. It's like in this one case here, the person's high D, yep, but to the right, they're not reflective. Okay, we understand
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
People contacts very high to the right, outgoing,
Hmm.
but they're not reserved. Okay.
Hmm.
Pace and consistency, yes, very dynamic.
Hmm.
Okay. But as far as being steady, nope. We just saw that a few minutes ago in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
description. And then that back here with the procedures and constraints, if the person was a high C, they would be very precise and analytical. But this person is not. We know that they're more pioneering, and that's where their score is. So it
Hmm.
gives us a good way to look at that. And what I like
Yeah.
about this graph here shows you, okay, the stars are adapted style, and then the adapted is the adapted movement. The black
Hmm.
arrow there shows you that.
Hmm.
But again, that's just the star shows you that that's their adapted position here. Okay, and then one last way to look at this, we have call it the insights wheel. Would you like to
Mm.
talk about this one, Diane?
Yeah, this wherever this the individual their star and their of course their you can see the stars are adapted, their natural is the circle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if they are on that outer circle, they're in extreme their normal behavior. So this is, I mean, where this person is this normal behavior. But if they're
Mm-hmm.
the further inside they go, they are under deeper stress. So
Mm.
that in and of itself is a great thing to know about this wheel. So this person is a strong persuader. So if they're going to sell you something, you're going to buy it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. And what would you say about the two symbols being right next to each other? Now the star, of course, means adapted. Read that
Hmm.
up, and the round one is the natural. Uh, Being that they're so close together, what would you say about that?
Yeah, it's just what you were talking about earlier, that this person, if they're in sales, are in the right job.
Yes. Yes. So the star and the moon, as I call them, the closer they are
Ah,
together, isn't that nice?
I love that.
Astronomical. Yeah. Uh, it's just the idea that the closer together, the means they're more in the right job, you know.
Hmm.
But also, what would be a red flag, right? And we'd see this on the other graphs as well. If they're a natural style, that would be this moon here, was here on Persuader, but their job required them to be, say, an analyzer way
Oh,
over here. The further these two get apart, the more they're going to scream,
yeah,
right?
right. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's just another way of looking at the behavioral style is through
Hmm.
the wheel. Some people like it more because it's more visual. Graph's more of a
Hmm.
linear thing.
Hmm.
But the fact is, you do want these things to be close together. The closer they are, the better.
Yeah.
So,
And if you can also lay out your team on this as well.
yes, please talk
The,
about that.
yeah, well, the report, the team comparison report gives you a lot more information, but at least here with this will, you could
Mm-hmm.
at least get a visual of where everybody is and what you might be lacking in
Mm-hmm.
terms of what you need to grow your business.
Yes. Yeah. What we do with a lot of our clients is, of course, they'll get the PDF of their report of the let's say we do a team report and we'll have
Hmm.
that wheel with everybody put on there with
Hmm.
their names and they can see how close they are to balancing this wheel out, right? So I like to look at it as like a tire wheel or something would be on your bicycle. These are spokes and you
Hmm.
need to have each of these areas filled to have a well-balanced company. If you don't, then you're going to have problems like you mentioned earlier, Diane, about sometimes people have like the one conductor type guy, and he had all these other people that were just the opposite of him, and he couldn't get any support from them. He couldn't get them to do the things they needed to do.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow.
So, so yes, that's another. Another nice tool we do offer is I use the big wall chart, put that up in a
Hmm.
training room, and then we can put their names of each person in the company and in the section that they are a part of. And this way you can start to see very physically, okay, how balanced are we? Or, oh, I didn't know that he was more of an implementer and she's more of a relator. And so it's just a nice reminder. Another nice tool we have is the pop-up 10 cards or the name tags that we make up for our clients that have these actual graphs right on there for them. So they can put that in their office, they can put it when they're in a meeting, they can have that name badge on and just lets people know the type of behavioral style they are right off the bat. Makes it easier for them to communicate to each other.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's all we wanted to cover on this section here today. Next time, what we'll do is we'll get into the driving forces. But for today, that's what we wanted to talk about. How would you like to wrap things up for us, Diane?
Well, the disc is a powerful tool and it's been around a long, long time. And people may look at it as something simplistic, but it really is far, far more powerful than that. Yeah, it is easy to use, but it has a lot of power and gives you a lot of information to run your business, your team better, job search better, build your career better. So it's an excellent tool.
Yes. And I like to add to your comments there. Oftentimes, if you run into someone that's, oh yeah, we did disc. Well, that's the unfortunate thing. You did it. You got to keep doing it. You got to understand it, and that's the important thing. So if you're going to do disc right, you've got to make sure you make it a living, breathing tool that you can implement on a regular basis. And
Yeah,
you'll,
teams change. I mean, people come and go in a
Mhm.
business, so you've got to. It's easy. I mean, that's another thing about the team report. Makes it it's very easy to add or take away people in the report as your business changes.
That's right. That's right. And you have that team report. You can add people to it, take people off of it. So you have like a dashboard telling you just what's happening, and so
Exactly.
like you can run your company better, like a pilot should. Good
Yep.
pilot. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, well, that's all for this time. We'll look forward to seeing you on our next program. In the meantime, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.